So thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you for joining us at our session in the Mind of a Recruiter. So we have JoAnn here today, and I'm excited to ask her some questions to really get into the mind of a recruiter to really help us get ahead when it comes to the recruitment process. So I have some questions for you, JoAnn, and then I will leave some time at the end for you all to ask questions. How does that sound? With so many companies using application tracking systems and also AI, what would be your best advice for candidates to help ensure that they get their resumes noticed?
So the first thing that I would say is to not use Canva. I know a lot of times people see Canva and think, oh, these resumes are going to be so beautiful. Keep it simple, because when you put your picture on there or when you use a lot of different fonts and whatnot, the ATS is not able to pick it up. So do not use Canva. Keep it very simple and basic. The other thing that I would say is sometimes people think it's the ATS that's blocking you, but actually it is when you apply for the position. So I'll give you an example. I've been in HR for over 6 years. We will put a limit on how many applications we get. So let's say we shut the resume down at 50 applications, right? If you are the 51st, your application is automatically going to get a reject, because we're going to keep the ad up for 2 weeks or however long we want to, but we've got the maximum amount already. So sometimes it's not the fact that you're not qualified, it's the fact that you're applying too late. So I always tell people, you can't hear me? Okay. So I always tell people, make sure that when you see that position, especially on LinkedIn, you're applying right away.
Okay. And it also kind of leads me to another point. When we think about like technology changing, we know a lot of companies, they are using AI. So now there's a lot of software out there that shows like when recruiters are hiring for people, it kind of automatically filters out the resume based on what's in the job description. So for us as technology people, if we can really learn and understand how the technology works, we can use it for us versus having it used against us. And also, like I want to say, there's also value in applying to a few jobs and making sure that your resume is rightfully crafted versus like applying to so many jobs and you really don't craft it to the job that you're applying for.
One other thing that I want to add is that when you look at the job description, make sure that you're matching it exactly to the description. So for example, if the job says data analysis, make sure your resume says data analysis, not data analytics. That's another thing. So make sure you are actually mirroring that job description to your resume to a T.
Please.
Okay.
All right. So my next question is, so how do you stand out in a virtual interview?
I want all of you to get a ring light. That is a world of difference. So many people I'll interview and it looks like they're in a closet. Okay, I'm serious. So please get a ring light. We want to see good lighting. Another thing that I would tell you is to dress as though you are going for an in-person interview. A lot of times I'll see people, and yes, your interview is at home, and they will have on a tank top, they'll have on a t-shirt. No, you want to set the expectation that you are the choice. So for my men out there, making sure you have a blazer on with a tie and a button-down shirt. For the ladies, a blazer, a blouse, or a button-up shirt. We need to set the expectation that you are professional. Another thing is making sure that if you have pets, that they are put away. There's so many times I'll interview someone and their dog is barking so loud, I can't even hear them. So the interview is not going to go well. So please, make sure, again, invest in a ring light, and that if you have pets, make sure you put them away, and that you are dressed to impress for the interview.
And that's really important too, because like I said, in today's economy, it's so hard to really get to the even interview process. So it's like the virtual interview is like the only chance that you have to really sell yourself. So it's like you can't have any dog barking, but you have to be dressed to impress and really sell yourself and show how you add value to the organization.
Absolutely.
So for my next question, in a competitive tech market, what separates someone who gets hired from someone who's equally qualified and does not get hired?
Storytelling. And I'm going to say that again, being able to sell yourself and tell your impact. Too many people will just say what they did, but they're not saying how they provided an impact, right? So I'll give you an example. If somebody I'm interviewing for is a data analyst, and they'll just say, I know how to build dashboards. versus someone that says, oh, I built dashboards and saved time. And they say the number. Let's say before it was 10 hours and they were able to reduce it to 2 hours. Who would you hire? You have to be able to say the value that you are going to bring to the organization, the impact that you've had. Don't be generic. That's not the time. This is the time to, as I like to say, humble brag.
Right.
Okay? Don't be scared of that. Too many people in an interview are nervous or scared or just what have you. You have to be able to tell your story and why you are the choice. Okay?
And that's important too, because especially in tech, it's like so many technical skills that you kind of have to know, but it's like sometimes you just might not know everything. So it's like the job might not always go to the person that has the most technical skills, but if you have some technical skills and you're able to have those other soft skills that, you know, are valuable to an organization, that could also be valuable too.
That's right. And to her point, it's not always the person that is qualified that gets the job. I know many people think, oh, this person got the job because they're most qualified. No, a lot of times people are hired because they're able to articulate their value, even if they don't meet all the qualifications. Trust me, that happens every single day.
All right, for our next question. So what industries or roles are seeing the biggest shifts in hiring right now?
I would say healthcare analytics, fintech, cybersecurity. But I think, honestly, every industry is going towards a data analytical type of industry. So to me, see what industry you want to be in, see what type of problems you want to solve, and go towards that.
Okay. So if you don't have tech experience, how do you compete in this job market?
That is a great question. One thing I like is when somebody is able to tell me, and not only tell me, but show me what they've done. So let's say you've taught yourself some skills. Being able to say, you know what, I want to share my screen with you so you can see some dashboards I've built or some queries that I've done. Being able to show, not only just talk, show a portfolio. That is important. And I always tell people, say, oh, you know what, recruiter, I just want to show you a quick 2-minute video or just show you my portfolio. That goes a long way. So being able to do both, articulate your value, but also show them the proof of your portfolio. And this can be volunteer work. This can be if you're an NBA fan and you've done something with stats, right? Just showing them that you have put in the work and that you're able to show them the work that you've done. That's important.
And it makes me think about when I was getting my master's, my undergrad degree is in marketing, so I did not have a technical background. But when I was getting my master's, I was very adamant about getting an internship because I didn't want to go into the workforce with a degree but no experience. So I left my corporate job to actually get an internship in cybersecurity. And at the time, it was very it was uncertain because I'm leaving what I'm comfortable with to go to something that might not necessarily work out, but going and getting that internship because I did not have any experience, but getting that internship, which can kind of look like maybe like a step back, it really propelled me forward to where I am in my career. So like you said, just being able to articulate your value and sometimes be willing to go out of your comfort zone. Like she said, you might have to volunteer, you might have to get an internship, you might have to do like freelance to work with small businesses to show your value. So that's another good point too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is one thing that you wish more Black and brown candidates knew about interviewing?
I would say not to self-reject. And what I mean by that is all of us have seen a job description, right? Where it says maybe, oh, must have 5 years of experience. And you've only got maybe 3. Apply. Always apply. I sit here as a recruiter that has done this for over 6 years, and most times, people don't have everything we want. You have to remember that is a wish list. That's what we wish somebody had. But saying a wish and what you have in front of you is 2 different things, right? So apply. I'm telling you, do not self-project. I've done it myself previously, but I'm telling you, apply. Because the best thing that can happen is that you can get that job. Today, our interview is kind of short, but I could tell you things that have even happened to me, jobs that I've gotten earlier in my career that I just applied to and was like, I don't know if I should apply, and I got them. Okay, so believe in yourself, apply for that role. It's a wish list.
Because if you don't apply, you have a 100% chance of not getting it anyway, right? So at least if you apply, you're at 50%.
That's right.
So, right.
Type. Sure.
So for candidates that are making a career change, what is the most effective way to present transferable skills and to show that they're a right fit for a new industry?
Definitely showing that portfolio, like I said, but also being able to tell them in the interview how you want this position. Many people are so nervous that they're not personable in an interview. It's almost like robotic. If you finished a boot camp program, right? Let's say you finished an upskilling boot camp program, talk about how you did that program. Talk about the struggles you had. Let's say that you worked while you were doing that program. Talk about that and say, you know what, I was going to school. I went through this upskilling boot camp program. It was intense, but I'm proud to say that I finished it. I exceeded my own expectations, and now I stand before you as someone ready to work in this industry. Do you see how I made that personable? That's what we want to hear. Not just, oh, I finished this boot camp program. No, tell us how it was. Tell us what you learned. You have to remember, people hire for fit. So you want to make it conversational. If you're just sitting there and like, oh, I just finished a boot camp program, you haven't really added any value. Tell us about yourself. That's important. And not enough people do that in an interview.
I know when I was getting into cybersecurity, I didn't know anyone in cybersecurity, but when I was working in account services, there was an IT team at my company. So there was an information security manager. So I randomly reached out to him and told him hey, I'm in school. I want to get into cybersecurity. Can I set up some time with you to really learn about cybersecurity? Of course, at the time, I didn't have any cyber experience, but just that willingness to reach out to somebody for mentorship to hey, can I pick your brain? Of course, I'm not getting paid for this, but it's adding value to me. So a lot of times I think we should realize the importance of not minimizing the small things and where we are. You might be in a role that's not technical. You might be in an organization, but it's who can I reach out to that is doing something that I want to do? Set up time with them. So mentorship is important too, from reaching out to mentors. And then also once you get in a position to be able to give back, to provide that mentorship too.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here today.
So what is the most powerful question a candidate can ask to stand out in an interview?
Oh, there's several questions. So one question is asking the hiring manager or the recruiter you're talking to, how can I make an impact on this team and add value? That's one question, right? The other question is, what career opportunities are there for growth and professional development? And the last one, this is one question that somebody said in an interview, and I've always saved it. I love this question. It says, if I was in this position 6 months from now, how would you know you made the right decision, right? All of those questions are to really make the person know that you are the choice, because the only person that would ask that type of question is somebody that's driven, a go-getter. So making sure that you ask those types of questions puts you at an advantage. So definitely ask those types of questions in an interview.
Okay. And so one more. So when you have two candidates with similar technical skills, what are some of the soft skills or personal attributes can be a deciding factor for the job offer?
Like I said, honestly, being able to tell a story, take us on your journey of how you even got into being a data analyst or how you got into tech. People don't understand that storytelling is something that is a selling point. Again, don't be robotic in your interview. Tell us how you got into this. Tell us what makes you hungry for this industry, right? We want to know. I love when I interview somebody and they say, I remember I interviewed a data analyst right before I came here, and I asked him, I said, what made you apply to this? You know what he said to me? Since I was little, I love numbers. He was like, I just love numbers. He said, and I love what I do. He said, I want to be in this industry. I want to make a difference. He said, I love learning. So when he said that, I was like, you know what? That's somebody we want to hire. Did he have all the skills? No. But just him telling me how hungry he was, how he loved data since he was little, that made me say, you know what? I'm going to fight for him to get this role. And he got it. So again, the power of storytelling. So again, if you don't know how to tell your story, that's something you need to practice and perfect.
It also makes me think about when you have an interview, really articulating how you can add value, because being in a world of tech where so many people we know SQL, we know HTML, we know all the things, but it's what can you really bring to a role that the next person does not? So it's being able to communicate that you have leadership skills, even if you aren't in a senior role, being able to exude leadership skills within that, or are you so technical, but you don't know how to communicate cross-functionally within an organization? A lot of times when you work with leadership and management, they don't always want to know the intricate details of technology. They want to know how can you communicate to upper leadership and to management. So being able to highlight those skills also is very valuable within the organization too.
No.
So now we want to open up the floor for any questions that you all might have. So if you can raise your hand or stand up, we can go ahead and get started with the questions.
Good.
To the left.
Ideal candidate.
It's an ideal candidate.
An ideal candidate?
One or two.
One or two. Like I said, the storytelling. I don't care if you don't have a lot of experience. My thing is, if you're hungry and you say, I'm willing to learn, that I'm going to fight for you. I love when somebody uses the word, I'm hungry. Like, JoAnn, you know what? Or if they tell me the struggle they had. Because how many of us love an underdog story? I do. Right? So if you're able to say, oh, you know what? I was a teacher. I'm just using an example. I was a teacher. And I decided that I've always had a passion for tech. And I taught myself, SQL. I taught myself Tableau. I've been teaching myself through Udemy, right? And now I'm here because I want to make that transition. I love tech. I'm always reading tech articles. That's going to beat somebody else that can't articulate their passion for it every time. Every time. So that's why I keep stressing the storytelling, not just going into an interview and saying, oh, like you said, I've got SQL. I know how to build dashboards. That told me nothing, right? Let me know the impact you've had if you have had that experience, right? Let's flip it and say if you have had that experience. Oh, I built dashboards and I'm saving time because I've been able to reduce time from 10 hours to 2 hours or whatever you're able to do. If you're able to save the company time or money or both, we're listening.
Right.
We are listening.
I know we have a question at the top in the right with the gray dress.
Hello. We can. I was talking around like this. He started he called the sign how it's turning out to stand out and it will go about the thing that it's the only the way talk about.
I'm going to tell you an answer. I don't do those. I would not, personally, because I can tell you, I had a company do that to me, and you want to know what happened? I had an interview with them. They took all my ideas, and I saw it in the next job description. And sometimes they just want to collect your ideas. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Yeah. Sometimes they just want to collect, because if they've got 10 people who would apply, they got your idea, your idea, your idea, your idea. No, I don't do that, and I don't suggest anybody else. If you want to, that's your business, but I'm just telling you, if you're asking me my opinion, I don't do that. I'll show you my portfolio. I'll show you what I've done. But I'm not about to give you all. No, I'm not doing that.
So in the right, in the red, in the center.
One of that question, like you just tell the company you don't do those case studies, or like how do you tell them that you don't? Yeah, that probably.
Well, I wouldn't say it exactly like that, but what I would do is I would have my own portfolio, right, of things that I've done. Right? So if you're going for a data analytics job, then you want to show them those things, right? But again, sometimes even when you've shown them those things, right, they still want more. They're like, oh, we want to see more. Okay, so you have to think back and say, okay, you want to see more what? And then they give you a specific, right? And it's like, no. If you want to do something basic, right? Let's say something that doesn't take too much time, that can show a little bit of your skill that you don't have in your portfolio, sure. But if it's something that's intense, like I remember I did something that took me a week. This was years ago, many, many years ago. And I was like, no. Okay, so no.
Okay, you have a question right here.
So you mentioned earlier that want to be one of the first people to apply to a role. So how do you do that out LinkedIn and in other ways? And sometimes our peers that sometimes if you're both down, you go on to a couple of sites, there's like they probably get it. How do you stay on top of that? Make sure you're one of the 4 teams.
So if I'm looking for a job, I'm going on LinkedIn every day. That's just the thing. Some people go here and there, but to me, if you want to be competitive in this market, I'm going every single day. And that, I know it sounds like work, but it is. To get a job nowadays, it's even worse than ever before. So me personally, I would be on Indeed, I would be on LinkedIn, I would be on everything known to man, right? Because again, a lot of times, I don't think we got to talk about this, sometimes the jobs will shut down, like I said, when we get that certain number, right? So you want to be one of the first ones to apply. So that's what I would do. I would be doing it like a job.
Parts of that question. I know a lot of people mention that we're all, you have like colleagues that were, let's actually work, or they like, they actually know them. Because I know something they really know, some companies they get. So what have you seen?
Absolutely. I can tell you for my company at TD, absolutely. Those applications that I get or referrals that I get, I push them through. And a lot of times people get hired. So I don't know if she got to mention, I work at TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. And so I specifically recruit for Black and brown talent. I'm a sourcer. So we have roles. So I'm always looking for Black and brown talent, especially from mid-level to executive. And even though I recruit for that, I do have colleagues that recruit for undergrad students and early talent. So I hope all of you connect with me today, seriously, if you're looking for a role, because I'm a recruiter looking for that specifically. One thing I want to mention before we wrap up is that if you apply for a job and they tell you to put the salary you're looking for, please never put the exact salary. I was telling her earlier, I always put 000,000 or 999,999. Never put a number. If you put a number, it's going to be like a pit bull to a bone. The company will not give you any more money. So make sure that you put 0 or 9. That's a piece of advice I want to give you today.
I have a quick question. So by a show of hands, when it comes to a job offer, how many of you have negotiated when it comes to like the offer? Okay, so that's a pretty good amount of people that have. And so has it worked, like whenever you negotiate for the offer, has it worked out in your favor by a show of hands? Okay, so that's good to know.
Yeah, we were talking about that because Kimberly and I go to a lot of different events specifically to let Black and brown people know, definitely apply for a role. Like I said, don't self-reject and always negotiate. Understand that that offer they give you is always going to be the lowest offer, no matter what. And also one last thing I want to say is never, ever tell a recruiter what you're currently making, ever. Because if you got lowballed at your last job, they're going to lowball you here. Never tell them.
Okay, you have a question in the pink.
So I was wondering if you get to like record we've already know. Why does some of the press needs to already tell me more from this note? Or why we put, instead or this and top things in a session. You already have an idea and you said what?
So they always have 3 interviews minimum, always. And the reason being is because you're going to meet with different people. The first time usually is an intake, honestly, just to see if they want to pass you on to the next round. Usually then it's usually the hiring manager or somebody from the team. So you're always going to have 3 interviews. I've never even seen any interviews less than 3, to be honest with you. Sometimes it's 2 if they really want that candidate and they have a lot of experience, but usually it's always 3. To me, anything past 5 is excessive. The only time we really do that is if it's executive level, truly. But anything with 5, and usually that hiring manager might not know what they want. And to be honest with you, a lot of times they will say, oh, keep that person warm. They do tell us that because they're still interviewing. And I'm going to use this. I want you to understand something that I'm going to tell you and why the value is very important when you speak in an interview and making sure you always say your impact. I always tell people, how many of you, show of hands, take vitamins daily? Okay. How many of you, when you have a headache, you take a Tylenol or aspirin? Right? More hands went up. Why? What was that?
Did you target a specific thing, a problem?
You said you're targeting a specific.
That's right? You have a specific problem that you need solved. Think of that from the company's perspective. So you are their aspirin to their pain points, right? You remember that. So sometimes we'll say, oh, you know what? That person was a vitamin. You're okay. We're looking for the aspirin. So every conversation that you have with that recruiter needs to be that you are the problem solver. You are the choice. You understand what I'm saying? We interview many vitamins. We want the aspirin to relieve our pain. Remember that when you're interviewing. The reason that job is open is because we have a problem we need solved. We need you to solve it. So that's how you need to be talking about your value and how you're going to help us solve our problem, always.
All right, any other questions? You have a question?
All agree. I've been listening to all of this. Does all of this still apply to like interns as part of our college? Wouldn't try to get into the rate and percent.
Internships? You're trying to get an internship? What classification are you?
26, rank 26, by graduates.
Okay. And what school are you going to?
Characteristic is history.
University of Houston? Okay. Are you looking to go anywhere? Like if we had an internship, are you willing to come to do an internship in Delaware? Are you willing to go anywhere? You want to just stay in Houston?
But it's something I would consider.
Consider. Okay. Well, let's talk.
And then,
Very tried.
all right, any other? Okay, you have a question?
Okay, thinking about I was wondering how you go about like explain what problems are before you're started.
That's a good question. So she asked, how do you know what specific problems they have? So one, on that job description, a lot of times it'll tell you what they're looking for. So doing a deep dive on that job description, but also if you're still unsure, let's say the job description isn't quite clear, asking them, saying, what problems are you having that I can help solve for you? Or why is this role open, right? So then you can see, and they'll tell you, trust me, that recruiter is going to tell you, oh, we need this. And then you tailor your answers to say, oh, you know what? This is what I did in my previous role. Or, oh, you know what? I want to learn more about that. So this is what I want to do for you. So those are how you'll find out. Definitely being able to ask questions as well in an interview. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
And also you can ask about like what would a typical day-to-day look like in this position. So that will also kind of help you know like how can you solve problems in that role too. And then also another thing with interviewing is like although we are being interviewed, we also need to understand like we need to interview the company because every company that reaches out to us, we don't necessarily want to work there.
That's right.
So we want to know like what is the work culture? What is the work-life balance? Are they inclusive? Does it fit with my lifestyle? So also with the recruiting, like making sure that it works on both sides too.
Absolutely, because I've had companies that reached out to me and I was like, absolutely not.
Right.
And I love TD Bank and, so you want to make sure it's a good fit. You spend a lot of time at work, so you want to make sure it's a good fit for you and your family.
All right, do we have any other questions? Okay.
How jobs prepare navigate like being online hosting like big centers now? How we navigate with the plus job training versus what trial is in it color. Then I feel like it's being harder to identify what the participants
I would definitely Google a company. If you see something that looks funny, right? One, trust your gut because it probably is. But secondly, Google the company. If it looks like it's only got one web page or something funky, no. Don't even bother because then you'll just get bombarded with spam emails and calls and whatnot. But I would Google the company to make sure it's a legitimate company.
And I like looking on Glassdoor too. Like I'm just kind of picky when it comes to where I go to work. So it's like I go to Glassdoor and like I'll filter it to the company rating being of like a 4.0 or higher. It's only 5, so that's kind of, but just really making sure like it's a really good company because it's like anything less than that, like you said, you spend so much of your day and your life at work. It's like you really want to be strategic about where you work. So that's another way. You can go ahead.
I had it doesn't set the final like several times here. Like I was feedback and
Let's see.
now we just wondering like what good on that. I know that's the line on tip.
You'll never get feedback from a recruiter. We are always told, even there's times I've wanted to, we can't. So the only thing that I would say, definitely practice. The hardest thing to do, honestly, is the question where we say, tell me about yourself. And I'll give you this example. I'm going to give you example A and B. If somebody said to me, JoAnn, tell me about yourself, I'm going to use data analyst just because I interview those. oh, I'm a data analyst. I've been working for 8 years at such and such company. I really enjoy it, and I'm excited to learn about this opportunity. That's A. B. JoAnn, tell me about yourself. I'm diligent, I'm dedicated, I'm determined. I've been an asset to every employer I've worked for. I've had a passion for numbers since I was little. Do you see how I'm telling you about myself, right? You know, I love to make sure that the data that I submit is clean. I really pride myself in that because I know if it's not, it's going to mess up everybody's report. Do you see how I'm describing? I'm humble bragging, right? You see the difference? That's when I say storytelling. You see, you're doing a little bit of humble bragging. You're letting them know that, you know, you're diligent, you're dedicated, you're determined, right? You're analytical, you work effectively and efficiently. Those are the things. Who would you pick? You see, that's when I say you need to practice. This doesn't come overnight. This comes from putting in the work. And I always tell people that I can always tell within the first 2 minutes if this person is going to make it to the next round or not. 2 minutes. That's a very short time because I interview people all the time. And I can always tell the people that have researched the company and the ones that haven't. I'll give you another example. When I say research, because a lot of times people say, JoAnn, what do you mean when you say research the company, right? So I'll use this example, TD Bank. Oh, what do you know about TD Bank? Oh, I love TD Bank. I actually bank there. I've been banking there for 10 years. They're so nice to me when I come in. Okay, option A. Or B. JoAnn, tell me about TD Bank. Oh, absolutely. You know, I recently saw when I was researching your website that Dr. Tony Allen, who is the president of Delaware State University, sits on your community advisory board. That resonates with me because my son actually goes to Howard University right now. Do you see? How would I know that? Unless I did a what? A deep dive. Do you see the difference? Which one would you hire? That's why I tell people you have to put in the work. Right now, this economy is crazy, right? The job market is wild. So you have to be able to put in the work, research the company, right? Articulate your value. Talk about your impact. Talk about your passion for tech or data analytics or project management or whatever you're into. You have to be able to articulate. And like I said before, and like Kim said, it's not always the person that has every box checked off. No, it's the person that can articulate their value and the impact they're going to bring. It is that aspirin, not the vitamin.
We have time for one more question. You can go ahead.
But so, I think you're
Yeah, I can. It's okay.
so for a lot of things. Okay. I was finding it my boy lately, and Neil Grass was up to my nerves, influencing Greenlist of me like, he needs to change your recipe. But she didn't know his detail around that for a lot. Curious to know as a chronological resume eventually the functional when you're making out about living in it, rural or should it be like the hybrid?
I think it depends on your experience. And the fact that she didn't say exactly, that's a little concerning to me. Have you been interviewing for a lot of different roles, or was that the only role you interviewed for and that was it?
I applied to any role that I tried. I'm a certain our busy. But I'm shy away from a conversation to ever tell me about can be helpful. But I have quizzed that a lot of stuff are getting up for Q4 and a lot of folks are going open up salty and very much out, trying to always have a relationship. So the beginning has the routes open area of who is our echo the room. And so that's what I call it, where if like Len gets Ellie call. And so she was telling me, like, look, this is not that crap, but it ain't all right for right time. I mean, I've actually brought them that for and so she was telling me, like, you got super background, the company, like, this is what they're looking for, like, the shift, how you present yourself, this is how the wording, that's effectively read personal, that clip of the regular. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I used to know that could be a quick decision relatively different, but now it's so time to figure out how to do that.
I think for one, you might need to have a professional resume writer do your resume. I know I have. You did?
So that's the best thing. I'm just reading like you say no, you can as easy for the pain and then you see if you're running down that someone will have to those who's like, oh, that's not good enough. It's like, well, I want to know what it ends.
And maybe she wanted to get paid as well, maybe. So sometimes your resume might be just fine and she might say, oh, this doesn't look good, so then you can pay her.
Right.
Honestly, with that, I would have to see your resume and go from there. But because some people, unfortunately, listen, we can talk. Okay. Okay. We can talk. You're welcome.
All right, everyone. So that sums up our session in the mind of a recruiter. So thank you, everyone, so much for coming out today. And thank you, JoAnn, for sharing so much insight. I know I learned a lot today, especially about the salary, like not putting any restrictions to that, and also knowing that you should not be a vitamin, be an aspirin. So I feel like that's a major takeaway, too. So I hope all of you learned so much today, and this information will help propel you forward in your career journey. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Let's give it another round of applause.